Hello, and welcome to Sister Elections, where recently on this channel I've been focusing largely on the presidential election and mostly on the VP of picks that the Democrats would choose. Joe Biden has not announced his VP pick yet, you know, maybe because of the indictments that could be coming up. They might want to, coincide the news with that, as well, as those are going to be the two biggest news events of this month, excluding the virtual conventions whenever they're going to be held. But I think the Senate elections are definitely going to be as important and could be more important than the presidential election if the Democrats manage to win back the Senate. Now, this is because they are very likely to hold on to the House. If they manage to, also win the presidency, Joe Biden, is leading in the polls. Of course, that could change in the 3 months before the election. But if Joe Biden wins and they gain the five, I think, necessary seats, it is five net gain seats to win the Senate, then they will have complete control of Congress and the government, which would be a huge win for the Democrats and a massive loss to the Republicans. Now, in this video, I'm going to be looking at the polls in all the, Senate seats that are up for grabs. And um, realistically, I've already filled out all the effectively safe seats that are going to be going to either party. And the Democrats currently have a one seat lead with 19, toss-up seats that will be characterizing, and some of these seats are still going to be likely or safe even for one of the parties, but it's nice to characterize them as these are not, these could effectively, say there was a huge landslide for one of the parties could go into the other side seats, but that will not happen. But we're just going to look at all these ones that are definitely not that are within a 15-point margin, and I'm going to be going alphabetically for most of these, and that would start with Alabama, and this is currently held by a Democrat. Doug Jones holding it after a special election in 2017. However, it's a solidly Republican state on all levels, and this is why it will be going to the Republicans. And the polls currently have Tommy Tuberville, the former, I believe, the Auburn coach. Yeah, the Auburn football coach. He is currently leading the polls. Huge leads. It's almost a safe Republican state. You'd think that he is the incumbent at the moment. However, he is not, and Doug Jones will lose this election, no matter what happens. No matter what happens. Alaska is also a pretty big one, and I'm going to put this into the lean column. The It's not a democratic challenger, but a independent challenger who is supported by the Democrats. Gross, he has a good chance. To be fair, he's definitely running a competitive campaign in Alaska, but Alaska is again a very safe Republican seat nationally, and I think it will hold on for the Republicans in the Senate, and really isn't that likely to change. And I'm going to be characterizing two more now, and this is big for the Democrats. Arizona and Colorado are both at the moment likely gains for the Democrats, and the whole Southwest has been a huge gain for the Democrats in recent elections. And despite Arizona and Colorado both being currently held by Republicans, Martha McSally and Cory Gardner in Colorado, both the Democratic challengers, Mark Kelly, the former astronaut is out in Arizona, and John Hickenlooper, the former Colorado governor in his home state, are having quite large leads over their incumbent opponents, and the Democrats are likely to pick these two up, which can definitely push them on to possibly regain the Senate. Now I'm going to go over to Georgia, and both of these are going to the Republicans. Currently, if Kelly Hoffler retains her seat after being selected by Brian Kemp at the start of 2019, then it's going to be a lot tighter for the special election. However, Georgia's main election, which is currently held by David Perdue, is likely to stay with them, and really shouldn't be much of a worry in Georgia at the moment, because there's definitely, Stacey Abrams is not running, so I highly doubt that there's going to be much of a challenge for the Republicans in that state. Now, this is quite a big one, especially recently, and that is that Iowa is currently I'm going to put it at a tilt at the moment because the polls have been definitely showing in favor of the Democratic challenger to Joni Ernst, who is the Republican incumbent. And this is, 1 to maybe 3 point lead for the Democrats, and some of the polls even showing even. But consistently through the last month, polls have been showing a Democratic lead in the Midwestern state. And this could be huge because on the national level, in the presidential level, it's unlikely that it will be flipping back to the Democratic side. But Joni Ernst is, she's somewhat popular, but then again, I think the Democrats have a decent chance, and with polling data, being rather consistent for them, this is only a good sign for the Democrats. And I'm going to be moving on to Kansas and Kentucky. Kentucky, Mitch McConnell, he will likely hold on to this. He has a challenger, but Amy McGrath, but there's not much of a challenge there. And in Kansas, I'm going to put this back into the likely column. A couple of weeks back, this could have been a tilt Republican or lean Republican seat. Chris Kobach, the failed gubernatorial candidate back in 2018, lost the primary, and there's a much more safer candidate in place for Republicans, and I cannot see the Democrats winning Kansas now. If Chris Kobach did win the primary, then it could have been a different story, but it's not. And these two states are almost certainly going to the Republicans as of now. Maine, Michigan, and Minnesota, these are all very likely to go to the Democrats. And I'm going to characterize Michigan as likely, and I'm going to put Maine in the lean column, just because, of course, this is quite a contentious seat, but recent polling data has been showing Sarah Goodyear on top slightly. I'm going to push it into the tilt column at the moment just because this is way too early to call this race, but Michigan and Minnesota have, popular Democratic incumbents. I can't really see the Republicans making inroads in those two Midwestern states, but Maine has Sarah Goodyear, running against the incumbent Susan Collins, and she's definitely lost her popularity, which allowed her to win, huge 60% to 70% wins in the state before. But now that she's done some controversial votes, especially on the Brett Kavanaugh and the impeachment, it's not looking too good for Suzanne Collins in Maine at the moment, and that is showing in the polls with Sarah Goodyear having slight leads in most of the polls that have been done in the past month. And we're going to be moving on to Montana. Of course, you have a very well-known statewide politician of Steve Bullock running, the former Democratic governor, running against the Republican incumbent. However, the polls have consistently been showing that the Republican incumbent will be holding on to his seat, 4 to 5% margin on most of these, and that is why Montana is currently going into the lean. However, I think that could tighten up come election day. New Hampshire. I'm just going to go through some likely Democratic states now: New Hampshire, North Carolina, and New Mexico. North Carolina is currently likely. All of these, New Mexico and New Hampshire, both have Democratic incumbents who are quite popular in their state, and they are leading by 10 to 15 points, so really not much trouble from there. However, North Carolina is currently held by Tom Tillis, the Republican incumbent, and Cal Cunningham has definitely made huge inroads in the state. Tom Tillis is definitely he's not unpopular, I would say, but he's not exactly the most popular senator in the country. And there's definitely been, a shift towards Democrats in North Carolina recently. And it's definitely in play in the presidential election, and it's most certainly in play, likely in favor for the Democrats at the moment. Cal Cunningham consistently going 5 to 10 points ahead in the polls, and so far this is in the Democratic column, and the Republicans will have to try and bring back some voters or possibly get more voter turnout to try and swing it back to hold onto those seats. And as you can see, the Democrats currently have the 50 seats in the Senate with 3 states to go. And 2 of these seats, Texas and South Carolina, are going to be likely for the Republicans. However, Texas, John Cornyn, not really a Democratic challenger like Beto O'Rourke, so I think Texas is effectively safe at this point for Republicans, there's definitely not going to be a huge Democratic turn in favor of them this year. Maybe further down, in 20, 2024, 2026, when the next Republican election is going to be held for the Senate there. Yeah, that could be a risk for the Republicans there, but at the moment, there's really not much problem there for the Republicans. South Carolina, however, Lindsey Graham, one of the most notoriously controversial and unpopular senators statewide, obviously, because he is almost losing his incumbency, and nationwide as well. He's a very polarizing figure, stood with Trump for much of his time in office, and um, it's definitely going to be a close one in South Carolina. The Democratic challenger is definitely, I believe it's Jamie Harrison. He has a good chance. He has a very good chance, and I think it's going to go down to the wire. However, I still believe that because South Carolina is a very Republican state, it will stay Republican in the 2020 Senate elections. And this leaves Virginia, which is currently held by Tim Kaine and is effectively a safe state, but let's put it in the likely column at this point. And this would give the Democrats a lead in the Senate as of August 10th, 2020. This could be big. I think Iowa, Maine, North Carolina are the three big states that the Democrats need to work on. Otherwise, they've definitely, got some good gains in Arizona and Colorado. But other than that, I think those three states are going to be the make or break for the Democrats, whether they win the Senate or whether they manage, or whether the Republicans manage to hold on to it. So, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all again soon.